As you can see earlier in the year, it was in the twos. The twos. Hi neighbors, George Reyna here, your local Northern Virginia realtor, and welcome to our April market report. Before we get started, if you or anyone you know is interested in buying or selling and want to know how to get that done in today's market, feel free to contact me. My information's at the end. And don't forget to follow me on Facebook and Instagram, or you can subscribe to my YouTube channel for the latest tips, news, and update. We're going to be spending the next few minutes talking about what's happened in the real estate market nationally and talk about what's happened in Nova in March. So let's get started with a snapshot of the market year over year and some of the key changes. This is the year over year snapshot of the market. There have been a lot of opinions about what's going to happen in the market, but looking at this snapshot, we can see showings for homes are up 49.5% year over year. And that's because there are a lot of people who are looking for homes across the country. Buyer applications are up 39%, and a lot of this information is going to change. Why? Because this is measuring the weeks when we first started the lockdown last year. As you can see, existing home sales and new home sales are both up to almost 10%. So what is the biggest problem on the market? The answer is inventory. Inventory is low across the country, and it continues to plague us in the real estate industry. Here we see the mortgage rate Freddie Mac 30-year fixed rates. The average 30-year fixed rates, as recorded by Freddie Mac, at around 3.18% right now. As you can see earlier in the year, it was in the twos. The twos. Incredible. Probably never going to see that again. But today's rates puts us closer to June of last year, which was when we started seeing rates drop. Regardless, interest rates are still historically lower when compared to other years, but there are a lot of predictions that rates are going to keep going up, maybe to the mid threes. George Ratu, a senior economist, says home sellers and home buyers have gotten really used to extremely low rates. Even in the 3s to 3.4% range, remain extremely affordable by historical standards. As I said earlier, the prediction is rates are going to continue to rise. Goldman Sachs says they think it could get to the upper threes, while other experts are saying more on the lower end of that, like 3.25. But we do know that it's going to be somewhere in the mid threes. I don't know if that's true. We don't know. It's a possibility. All we know is that we're going to see rates continue to rise throughout the year. And because rates have been historically low, buyers are buying almost everything on the market, which has caused the inventory challenge across the country. This is a snapshot of new listings coming into the market as compared to the total listings in the country. Right now, across the country, on average, we're down about 52% a year of the number of homes available on the market for those who want to buy them. We want to see more listings come to the market as we continue to move into a strong spring market. But right now, deficit across the country. If we look at this map right here, we can see that the majority of the country in this red. Some states in the dark red, which is about 60% down year over year. And particularly if we look at the DMV, specifically Virginia, we see it between 45 and 60% less inventory than there have been before. Specifically Virginia being around 52.5%. Low interest rates, the pandemic, and other pressures around housing have caused this issue of low inventory. Experts are forecasting inventory to come back in the market the second half of the year, mainly due to more people getting comfortable, especially with vaccinations on their way. But as you can see, the inventory situation across the country is pretty dramatic, especially in the lack of available homes for sale. Dr. Lynn Fisher from the FHFA said this: house prices nationwide recorded the largest annual and quarterly increase in the history of the FHFA HPI. Low mortgage rates, pent-up demand from home buyers, and a limited housing supply propelled every region of the country to experience faster growth in 2020 compared to a year ago despite the pandemic. One of the big questions we've had is, What are some of the causes and effects of some of the situations we found in the housing market? No doubt this lack of inventory has been caused by a number of different factors. Here we see new construction for single-family homes that have been completed for the last 13 years, below the 50-year average. If we go back in time, you see the red bars near the middle of the screen. That's 2004, 05, and 06, some of the record-setting times in real estate. This was for setting records in number of unit homes being built. In those 3 years, in this country, more than 1.5 million homes were built. Never happened before, probably never happen again. And during the housing crisis, builders were basically at the center of the real estate. Construction lending dried up a lot of the availability lending back then. But it's flipped since then. Builders have not been building enough homes to keep up with population growth. If you look at the 70s, 80s, more homes were being built back then than they are today. This image shows how much of a deficit we're in. They are not building enough homes to keep up with demand, even with building permits being up. One concern that I've seen is, are we seeing a cash out refinance issue? Some titles I've seen are cash out refi surges to the highest level since the financial crisis. House or ATM cashed out refinance spike in 2020. The question is, are we seeing a cash out refinance crisis in this country? It's something we want to research and find out if it's true, and find out what's not true about it. Here we're looking at the home equity cashed out refinances in billions. When we compare that 2020 to the highest year in 2006, 153 billion last year cashed out as a cash out refinance in this country. In 2006, at the height of the market, 321 billion cashed out. So it is at the highest level since it has been for a while, that's true, but regardless, it's still nowhere near where it was back in 2006. What we are seeing now is more tappable equity for homeowners. Tappable equity is defined as the amount for a homeowner to access before hitting a maximum 80% loan to value. Whew. What does that mean? Well, an example, you own a $100,000 home and you pull out $80,000 on it. That's 80% loan to value. What we're seeing is homeowners pulling out their equity, which they have not accessed over the last 10 years. The amount of tappable equity being used was 5 trillion, and today it's 7 trillion. But if you look, only 33% of tappable equity is being used, which is 153 billion compared to 2006, which was 321 billion. So the question is what are people doing with that equity? Are they accessing it? Are they misusing equity, like back in the housing crisis? The Wall Street Journal said this: the residential real estate market is on its biggest tear since 2006, just before the housing bubble burst and set off a global recession. Yet, in nearly every meaningful way, today's market is the inverse of the previous boom. In the mid-2000s, loose mortgage lending standards enabled borrowers with poor credit histories to purchase homes beyond their means, sometimes with mortgages that required low payment in the early years of the loan. But it's different now. Today's lending standards have changed. We know that in order to go and obtain financing for a home loan, you've got to qualify for financing of a home loan, and you've got to demonstrate the ability to repay it. It's very different than 2006. NAR said this, speaking of demand. With demand for homes outpacing new listing, buyer competition continues to intensify. On average, there were 4 offers per home sold in February, according to NAR's last February Realtors Confidence Index report, a monthly survey of realtors about their transactions. 1 year ago, there were 2 to 3 buyers for every home sold. The intense competition has led to double-digit price growth and properties selling in the record time. To get to a healthy supply level equivalent to 6 months of monthly demand, an additional 2.7 million homes should be on the market for sale. Let me repeat that again. An additional 2.7 million homes need to come on the market to fulfill this demand. If you've been out looking for a home, you know this already. There is a surge of people wanting to buy right now. And if we get 2.7 million homes on the market, would make up that deficit. We need more properties on the market right now. So let's look at this graphically. 4.1 offers on the most recent sales in February, dramatically higher than where it's been for the last several years. If you're Nova, you know that's probably higher. I would say on average 10 offers per home. Another big question is people are asking right now is this like the last time? Some may realize it's not 2008 all over again, but it feels maybe like 2006. It's a market that's moving fast and one that I want to make sure that I'm making the right decision in if I'm a buyer. And I have concerns about it. So let's break down and compare the two markets. Looking at annual home appreciation, we know that home price appreciation increased. According to CoreLogic, for 2020, we've seen appreciating about 9.2%. If we start comparing the years leading up to 2006, comparing to today, between 2002 and 2005, the total average annual appreciation was over 10%. And today, 2017 to 2019, the total average is about 6.3% in annual appreciation. Big difference there. What does that mean for those that are buying a home? This graphic here shows default risk in the mortgage market. A good question is, where are lending standards today as compared to back then? This yellow line is a representation of reasonable lending standards, showing that in 2004 to 2006, there was a lot of borrower risk back then. Today, product risks have been reduced a lot in the real estate market. The loan products that were in the market back then in 2006, they're not around today anymore. Borrower risks have been severely cut back as to where it was back then as well. It's harder to qualify for a home loan now. When we look at demand, we can say back then, demand was inflated, whereas today, demand is real, as measured by those in their ability to qualify for a home loan. Another interesting comparison, single-family inventory. It was rising in 04, 05, 06, and 07, and prices were going up too, whereas today's inventory has been going down, and prices are going up. It's just simple economics. Supply goes down, prices rise. Conversely, in the years of 04 to 07, or leading up to the housing crash, supply was going up and prices were going up too. That market went against the economic fundamentals in the real estate market. Unlike today, we can say the reason for the price growth has been in large part by extreme demand for some very real reasons: low interest rates and the pandemic, and the lack of homes on the market. And it starts to paint a overall picture. Odetta Kushi says, it's not just a seller's market, it's a super seller's market. There is an increasingly competitive home buying environment, which is true across the country. Here we see early last year, the average gain in equity on a home mortgage, a home that has a mortgage on it, was around $26,300. Right now, the current average equity on a home mortgage is around $204,000 across the country. 38.2% of homes are owned free and clear, and 16.2% has increased their equity, totaling over $1.5 trillion. Equity is surging across the country, and we're going through the remainder of that this year. The question is do homeowners want to leverage that equity to move up or do something else with their housing? The interesting thing is many homeowners actually don't know that they have that much equity in their home. If you look at this map, you see across the country significant gains in home equity. In Nova, that's an average around $31,000 throughout the state. I believe it's a bit higher in our area. The reality of the market is we're selling a lot of homes and the market's very good, but inventory remains low. So let's look at some numbers for Nova. As we can see here in NVAR region as a whole, and we're talking about Arlington, Alexandria, Fairfax Falls Church, all the area, The average home is selling for around $696,000, a 7.3% increase. And home sales actually are increased in our area, but demand is high. So even though it's increased by 17.9% compared to last year, demand is still high. There are more buyers right now. In Fairfax, we're seeing an average of about 9.9% increase in price and 11.2% in home sales. Arlington actually saw a 1.8% increase and a 26.8% sale. And looking at the home demand index, so this is just to give you an idea of, like, yes, we've had some more homes listed, but what about the demand? Demand for mid-price single-family homes rose 21%. So if you look at how much that we actually increased totally compared to how much the demand is, you see why there's practically no properties on the market. In fact, a monthly supply of 0.8 homes on the market. So what does this mean? We have a high demand in our area and inventory is just low for that demand. Pandemic, job loss, unable to find a home, or not knowing that the market is hot is just some of the causes of low inventory. If you have a home to sell, now is the time to sell. You have all the leverage and the equity to do it. Buyers, it's a tough market, but if you can get a home, you'll have a great rate for the next 30 years. Well, that's all I have for now. And if you would like to see more homes coming on the market or want to know what your home's worth, contact me for a free custom report. And don't forget to follow me on Facebook and Instagram, or you can subscribe to my YouTube channel for the latest tips, news, and update. Thanks for watching a Realtor's Life Market Update.